The follow-up to that video about that Aieve fermenting kit that was sent to me, and I really love it. This has been so much fun. There's the couple jars I started originally, and this was about a week after they were started. The first jar with the mixture of peppers was done, and one thing that I did learn is that the thicker fleshed peppers would have been ready in about 3 days, and the flesh actually starts to get a little bit mushy when you leave it long enough to have all of the different types of peppers done. So from now on, I'm going to do all the peppers themselves in different batches and just keep the different types separate. And here I am, I'm just taking them out of that half-gallon jar and putting them into the small jar. You can see I couldn't get that glass weight out of there, so I'm just kind of fighting around it with a fork right there to try to get it out. And I'll show you in a little while what I figured out to get them out too. So this is that first batch of peppers, and they are really just amazing. They've got a nice tang to them, but like I said, some of the flesh on some of them is a little bit soft, but they still are really good. So, I would recommend, from lacto fermenting peppers like this. So now that they're in a jar and I put the brine in there, I'm going to put them down in the fridge, and they'll actually stay for a couple months like this from what I understand. At the same time, I decided to try a couple of the carrots. Now this was at the 1 week point, and they just were not done yet. They were starting to get a little bit of flavor, but they just don't ferment as fast as the peppers, I guess. And then I also decided to try one of the dilly beans. And it's really a good idea to try this stuff as you go along every once in a while, because it, you can just taste the changes and stop it at any point by putting it in the fridge. So you have them at a point that you like them. And that salad, I threw a bunch of the peppers on that day. And then this is a week later. I'm going to try them. And they still just weren't quite ready. They're getting there, though. The carrots did have a... you're starting to get the dill flavor to them and a nice little tang. It's pretty neat because the tang is there, but it's not a vinegary tang. It's really a nice flavor. And the same with those dilly beans that I tried. Now, they took on a really good garlic flavor with those couple pieces of garlic I put in there and the dill, so they weren't quite ready either, so I put them back. Then a couple days later, I grabbed a couple of these Japanese cucumbers and cut them up and started a batch of them with the same brine just to see how they work out, just because I had a lot of them. And then here we are at about a week and a half. I went down today and I picked a batch of the nata pinos and the habaneros to ferment. And you can see I've been bringing up some pumpkins, and this is today's batch, and it's like every day I get another golf cart full of them. That thing's been a real blessing. At this point, it's a little bit over a week and a half. The dilly beans are done. You can see I figured out to use that big grabber that I got for the air fryer there. It works really good for getting that glass out of the jar. Those little nylon tips really stick to it and hold on to it. It also works good at getting the beans out of the jar, you can see. So that's one thing I discovered is that really does help a lot when transferring these. It's nice to start them in a half-gallon jar and then be able to just pack them down into a quart when they're done. And these really did come out nice here. We do the pickled canned dilly beans, and this is a whole different flavor, completely different without the vinegar, and it's really great. I like them. I really enjoy them. So I got them packed in the 1 quart jar, and same as I said before, these are going to go in the fridge, and they'll last from several months from what I've read. So I'm just going to set the top on there, and then I'm going to take this food saver adapter that I had, and I'm just going to use the vacuum pump that came with the fermenting kit. That really works good for sealing those jars. You don't want to mess with the food saver because mine's kind of dying. So that jar is ready to go down, and we'll be enjoying that for a while now. And I have a couple left over that didn't fit. And you know what really amazed me was the flavor of the garlic after it was fermented. I really want to try just a batch of garlic someday, because that was really, really a great flavor. And here are the carrots. They're ready too. The carrots have a nice little tang. It's not a vinegar tang. It's completely different, but it's really good. And they are a little bit salty, and they do have a nice tint of that dill flavor from those heads of dill I put in there. So, you know, they took just about a little bit over 2.5 weeks, also. So I'm just going to do the same thing, transfer them to a smaller jar that'll fit in the fridge, and, free up these jars and weights and everything to start another couple batches here. So same thing, I got them in the jar, and gonna pour in some of the brine, and then just throw the lid on there, and I'm just gonna pull down a little vacuum for now, and every time we use them I'll probably seal them again just to try to keep the air out of them. So that jar is all done and ready to eat now. Really is a great flavor though. And I got a couple left over to enjoy without opening the big jar, so they'll be fun to eat. So now after getting that done, it's time to get everything washed up between the batches. Here I just use some soap and hot water and make sure you get all the old fermenting flavors and everything else out of the jar there. Do a good job and rinse it good so there's no soap. And this is the batch of jalapenos and habaneros I picked this morning. And these two peppers I found out are my favorite fermented. The thicker wall ones are nice. They're a little sweeter and stuff, but these just they have a very firm flesh, and they really maintain the crispness while accepting the flavor of the fermenting. And I really, wanted to try to do a couple jars of these just to have. So I'm going to do them separate because they really do both take a little bit different time. The habaneros actually could take a little longer to do because they've got a very thin flesh. So same thing, I'm just going to clean them out with the grapefruit spoon there, and then just go back and slice them up a little bit and get them ready to put in the jar. Does a time-consuming thing, but the grapefruit spoon there, like I showed you before, really does work good when you're cleaning a bunch of seeds out of them. And you don't want the seeds in there because they do get kind of rubbery and chewy. And I saw a couple complaints from people that had these Cuisinart knives that I bought about a year ago, and I've been using mine every day and had no problem. But some people have said that they've had the black color flaking off them, and I was wondering, how many people really had this problem. So I got the first batch of them there all cut up, and I'm going back to the half-gallon jar now like I did originally, and just gonna get as many in the jar as I can, kind of stuff it full. And I have to say, those jalapeno plants that I put in this year have been amazing. I only threw a couple in, and I've just been picking them constantly. And now I'm going to make up that same brine I used in the first video. Two tablespoons of salt to 1 quart of water. And you want to make sure that you use non-chlorinated water, so you don't want to use like city tap water or anything. And then I'm just going to put it in there and start filling it up to try to get it above the level of the peppers. And I didn't quite make it with that, so I'm going to mix up another one. Just hope my doctor never sees this, that I do use this much salt. He'd be mad. So I got the second one there, and you just have to mix it up and let it sit for a couple minutes to dissolve and fill it up. And then those little glass weights, they really do work great. I kind of wish they had finger grips on them, but then they'd weigh less and wouldn't work as good. So I'm kind of happy with the ones that I chose for now. Put the lid on and just pull a little bit of any of the air that's left in there out. and that one's all ready to sit. And I'm guessing that's probably going to be at least 2 weeks to really get them fermented down good. And there's another salad, all picked fresh today. Everything's from the garden, and you can see that first jar of peppers is almost gone now. And just taking another break outside there, and you can see here's all the spinach. That didn't do so good, but all the lettuce we're starting to eat again, and the Japanese cucumbers are just doing wonderful, and a couple potatoes in there, and we got bok choy and radishes we've been enjoying, and the fall kale is just starting to do real good now, and a little bit more lettuce and some rainbow chard down there. So back inside to work on the habaneros next. And these really do also have a great flavor when they're fermented. And, like I said, they're my one of my favorites. I'm just going to start by washing them up and cutting them up and cleaning them just like I did the jalapenos there. Cut the end off and clean them up. Now, they're not all orange this year. They got a late start, so they really haven't had a lot of time to turn, but you know, luckily we've had some warm weather recently, and it doesn't look like we'll have frost for a while now, so the rest of them that are left out there might turn. So same thing, just rough, coarse chopping them up into bigger slices. These kind of slices really work good on like sandwiches and salads and stuff like that. So got a batch of them chopped up there, and same thing, just start shoving them in the jars there and get as many as I can in there. I'm going to press them down and stuff and just shake them good, and you know, just keep packing them until it's full. Then I hear another truck coming up the road, and about every 20 minutes or so, the muck potatoes are ready to be picked, and they've got these big trucks that each carry about 10 tons or 20,000 pounds of potatoes, and they just go flying by one after the next, you know, in 20-minute intervals. It's pretty cool to watch. Anyhow, back to the brine in this one, and didn't quite have enough, so I just made up another half a batch to finish it off, because you have to make sure that the liquid is up over the any of the peppers. You can't have any peppers exposed to air. And then throw in another one of the glass pucks. And then screw the lids on, and these lids really do work great. I've never used any other brands or anything else, but you know, I definitely would recommend these the way they've been working for me. And then I took some air out with the pump that came with it, and I'm just going to set the date so I don't forget what date I start them, and I'll check them every couple days probably to, you know, just taste the flavor and stuff. So there you can see I've got them going. Pickles, one of the jars looks good, but this one jar here doesn't look so good. I see like a white mold starting to grow on some of them, so I don't know what happened with that, but probably give it another day or two, and I'll probably wind up tossing it. And then I figured I'd try to get a good shot of one of the trucks outside, and there goes another 20,000 pounds of potatoes. So I must say, this fermenting kit's really been a great addition to our kitchen. We really do love everything that we've done so far. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.